I've been joined by Duncan Amoah, who's the Executive Secretary of COPEC. Good morning, Duncan.
And you should add the other title.
What's the other title?
In fact, people who watch this program insist I do come on the platform because there's a certain Dziffa. And I'm not denying
so much
it.
For being with
I'm
us,
accepting
Duncan.
it on set. There's a Dziffa here and there's a Citi TV, so I'm
here. We also have with us Banson, who's a private legal practitioner. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for
So we'll delve right into our first story. Of course, yesterday we heard the president say that he don't convict appointees. And we have a response by Vitus Azim that I want us to take a look at and then hear both of your thoughts on it. So I'm reading from citinewsroom.com. We expect to see corruption report, not just clearance. So I'll just give you the background from the Daily Graphic. It says, I don't convict appointees. Allegations are referred to designated bodies. So on page 3 of the Daily Graphic, we have the president, Duncan, has said it is not part of his job to clear or convict any of his appointees accused of wrongdoings or engaging in acts of corruption in the discharge of their duties to the country. However, it is his job to act on allegations of corruption by referring the issue to designated investigative authorities for the relevant inquiries and necessary actions. So the president saying he's doing his part by referring them to the relevant bodies. He named the CID, among others, to do the investigations and prosecute these guys. But what he can do is relieve them of their duties. So I'm going to now read what Vitus Azim said. We expect to see corruption report, not just clearance. And that's a response to the president. And he says here, a former director of Ghana Integrity Initiative, Vitus Azim, has rubbished President Addo's claims, suggesting that it is not his duty to clear or convict officials accused of corruption. The president made this comment yesterday at the Ghana Bar Conference in Takoradi. So I'm going to quote Vitus Azim briefly. He says, I'm going to quote the president first, then I'll quote Vitus' response. The president says, it is not my job to clear or convict any person accused of wrongdoing or engaging in acts of corruption. My job is to act on allegations of corruption by referring the issues to proper investigative agencies for the relevant inquiry and necessary action. That is exactly what has been done since I assumed mantle of leadership on the 7th of January 2017. Now, Mr. Azim says it is his job to clear or convict. He has referred the matter for investigation, so he is expected to act on it. If he did not intend to act on them, he should not have caused an investigation to take place. It is not just a matter of saying go and investigate. If you refer a case to someone to investigate, you are the only one that's allowed to release the report. So even the so-called independent bodies cannot release the report. They only submit it to the president, who asked them to do the investigations. So we expect to see more details in the report rather than just coming to say that they have been cleared. So Duncan, let me start with you here. Isn't it enough for the president to relieve his appointees of their duties and say, hey, let the investigative agencies take care of the rest. If they want to prosecute them, let them prosecute them. I've done my part in my fight against corruption.
Dziffa, let me say good morning to you again and to your viewers and to our lawyer here. I would have loved to go into the legalities of whether the president is supposed to ensure that the appointees he hires face the full rigors of the law, but I'm sure the lawyer can do a lot better on that than I would. So I would stick with how we got here. Post December 7th and January 7th, the swearing in of the president, what the powers of the Constitution confer on him are appointments. And he can appoint and disappoint. Yeah. Even without any excuse or reason. If he chooses that you are my minister, I don't want you to serve in their capacity, he doesn't owe us any excuse. He, however, owes us certain excuses or explanations when matters of public concern come up about his appointees. If it was a normal day that he had to probably reshuffle, move people around, or appoint a new CEO for a state-owned enterprise or company, he doesn't owe anybody an excuse because he didn't give us a reason for appointing same. But when these matters are of public concern, you would expect that he would at least hasten to let the public aware that these were the things we found. These are the people who probably should have done A, B, C, and D and didn't. We've referred the matter to the AG. The people are before courts. Then that confidence that the public reposed in our president December 7, 2016 at the polls could have been kept as it were. But this is a situation where reshuffles, we haven't seen much. One, that the Constitution allows him the natural room to operate. And then when it comes to scandals and corrupt issues coming up, you would hardly see any logical conclusion to such scandals that comes. And so I would, for the purpose of time, want to limit me to the energy sector where I sit as an observer. Yeah. You would want to ask the myriad of corrupt cases that have come up in the energy sector. How have they been resolved?
Because he even mentioned Bache Jacko's case as part of, hey, we've cleared them.
You see, Dziffa, the solution to corruption normally is not go home.
Okay.
It's not you're suspended or dismissed. That's not the solution. Of course, if my senior lawyer here decides to corrupt himself and I'm an appointing authority and I do not ensure that whatever corruptible practices, there are some refunds to the state. Dziffa is also an appointee looking how he was dealt with. And so if he stole 4 million, right, and he's told to go home and probably enjoy the loot, Dziffa would scale up a bit and say, oh, I don't need 4, let me go to about 20. Do you get it? Yeah. But if he stole 4 million and we said, look, it is not done. Any possible ways of getting a refund, right, or getting you imprisoned, the next time Dziffa is signing a contract and there's a 20 million markup, she will probably be a bit edgy because if she's found out, she's going to lose not only her position and reputation, but she would also go to prison. Yeah. Unfortunately, we've not seen any instances where clear violations or breaches, right, have been punished under this regime. We've not seen instances where people now feel, if I do this and I am found out, I'm going to be punished. And so the public is gradually becoming incensed. I would go back to what we started off with, the boss issue. Yeah. We had every evidence of wrongdoing, especially in the sale of the 5 million liters contaminated fuel. Practices across the world would not allow anybody to dump even 100,000 liters, right? Anywhere. Yeah. Because it has environmental consequences, even if it doesn't end up in people's cars. It has a lot of effects on the environment. And so standard practices will tell you to at least clean. Somebody decided, I'm dumping 5 million liters. When we raised the issues, we were rather called names and insulted.
But is that really something that is the president's fault?
You see,
he's not the one who has to clear them.
Dziffa, civil society do not have the power to hire and fire. We do not have even prosecutorial powers. None. Yeah. So it is our job as people probably sitting on a certain tree somewhere overlooking a certain arc, right, to see whether things are being done rightly or certain things could have been done a lot more efficiently. When you raise these issues, the response you get from authorities is sometimes not only discouraging but disparaging. Insults all over the place. And if you are not careful, you get tagged one way or the other. You get tagged politically and they say you are an opponent. Meanwhile, Dziffa, the same job had been done under previous administrations. So when the state doesn't seem serious about the fight against corruption, as if you ask all civil society actors, I'm sure Franklin Kujo will tell you his own, frustrations.
Yeah.
A certain Kelly GVG contract comes up, right? Value for money analysis, you ask, there's none. You ask for justification for this contract, there's none. And yet, the appointees, because they wield certain immense powers and resources, are able to come after you. Yeah. What does the appointing authority do about these things? It becomes quite difficult to say that the president should be the one prosecuting these people. But again, Dziffa, right down from the IGP to the Attorney General to the Special Prosecutor, who does these appointments? Right? The police CID. Yes, they could do their investigations. But then again, there's a higher authority. A certain Interior Ministry, a certain Police Council that is also chaired by a politician. And so invariably, it is the same people who go around. When one of them does wrong, right, the system closes up, right? They find a way to close their ranks and clear these people.
So you are not satisfied with the president's fight against corruption?
Dziffa, I think that this whole corrupt situation we find ourselves in is systemic.
Okay.
And I would recommend that certain constitutional reviews be done immediately. I do not see where we can get to as a country if we do not depoliticize the police service, right? Let the police council be made up of these commissioners of police, right? You can have one or two political appointees on there who would have just one voting right, such that the police is really an autonomous institution that can even go for as high as the president if the president does the wrong thing.
Okay.
Dziffa, we don't have that now, so some big man can pick a phone call, a docket gets missing altogether, nothing is found, a certain special prosecutor is appointed, frustrations, we know, he's become the lamenter in chief.
Okay, Duncan.
Dziffa, we cannot.
Let's look at the other side of this story as well. So I'm reading from ABC News, and it says 21 NDC officials on trial over 772 million Ghana Citi chop. That story is on page 2. And of course, I'm going to quote the Attorney General as well. She was there yesterday, and I'm talking about Gloria Akufo. She says, presently, 21 accused persons, including a limited liability company, are facing trial in corruption and corruption-related cases involving a total of about $139 million and 67.3 million Ghana cedis, respectively. So people are asking, when it comes to the opposition, perhaps we have a way of, we're speeding up the prosecution. Can we apply the same to people who are currently under the administration, who have done something wrong, they've been relieved of their duties, but we're not hearing any issue of trying and prosecuting them? Bobby.
Good morning to your viewers and listeners, and to Duncan Amoah, who has been tagged himself. And well, I associate myself largely with the comments he has made. The most important element in corruption is that it is a perception.
Okay.
And to fight that perception, you must be as transparent as possible. I have an issue with the fact that the presidency seems always to be in a hurry to be the complainant in such matters. And so ordinarily, the criminal system requires that there must be a complainant based on the state institution that has the capacity to investigate the matter. The complainant could be lodged with either the police, could be lodged with now the Special Prosecutor's Office, or SHRAJ does not have criminal matters, but in matters of public administration, they have the jurisdiction to investigate, or with SHRAJ or IOCO, as it were. When journalists or civil society are able to unearth some of these corruption scandals, at that stage, they all remain allegation. Now, we don't wait for those who actually unearth these things to go and lodge their complaint with the appropriate state entity. So tomorrow, there's a breaking news in Daily Graphic. 5 million contaminated fuel sold at Bust. The next day, the president or the presidency sends a complaint to the police service. The presidency doesn't have the facts that the civil society has. They are the ones who lodge or who unearth these scandals. So it goes to the police service, assuming it goes to the police. The police does not call those who unearth these things. Then they go back 2-3 weeks to the president. to say, oh, we investigated based on what you brought us. What did the president bring you? Or what did the presidency bring you? For me, that is the question. What did they investigate? We don't hear anything. We don't even hear that they have started investigation. All we hear is that you have been cleared. And look at where the announcement of the clearing is done. They are always done at party events. Pious. Yes. His was announced by the president himself in his hometown.
And what's wrong with that?
That is what I'm saying. It's perception. So you go to his people to tell them, oh, your son is free. Dziffa, come on.
How should he have done it?
He shouldn't have been the complainant in the first place. That is my problem legally with it. Because unless you tell me that, for example, the boss, you were invited by those investigating, but it was unearthed by your organization.
Exactly.
So those who are able to see these scandals should be the ones who would investigate. Why would the president be in a hurry to investigate something? You are living in a house with your son. He goes out to play the fool, for lack of a better word. Somebody sees him on the streets, starts shouting, Kofi Ba, and I say, Mr. Ajekumba, let me use that example. And he's doing this and this and this. The person saw it. He's the one who is supposed to come and report. Then the father who was at home did not see his son do it, says that, okay, I want to go and lodge the complaint. What facts do you have?
None.
That is the problem I have with this approach.
Okay, so what should he have done instead?
He shouldn't have been the complainant.
Okay.
He shouldn't have even meddled with the whole process from the beginning.
Okay.
He's the president, for crying out loud. What I'm not owed, but what I have seen, is that in the times of President Kufuor, when Richard Anane was accused of conflict of interest, the president asked him to step aside. Those who were interested in the matter went to Shraj. Shraj came up with a report. It went all the way to the Supreme Court. When the Supreme Court cleared Mr. Anane, the president said, go back to your work.
Okay.
That is what should be done.
But what's stalling the process of prosecuting these people? Because we know that sometimes
Somebody
they are fired.
the police cannot investigate the same matter twice.
Okay.
Or what we say, lawyer says that you cannot punish somebody twice for the same offense. So the president decides to lodge the complaint, let's say with the bust issue.
Yeah.
The civil society that unearthed the issue is not invited. So the presidency does not have the facts. They will never have the facts. They only say, I have read in the newspapers that there are allegations of corruption against this my appointee. I'll be grateful if you can investigate. We've all had, again, issues with how the police deal with matters coming from the executive.
So do you agree with Vitus that at least we should find out the results of these investigations?
We need to know the evidence that was given to these investigative authorities.
Okay.
We need to know who they invited, how they went about their investigation, and the findings or the report. In the absence of these things, the perception will still be out there. But there are people who have been asked to go home pending investigations. There are others that nothing has been said about them. They have remained at post until the president said they didn't find anything wrong with them. Now you are coming out to say you don't clear them, institutions clear them. How come it is not those institutions who have announced that these people have been cleared? It's a perception, Dziffa. I don't know what influences the president's decision or the presidency's decision to go about these things this way. But obviously it is not doing what they think will do. It is not dispelling the perception that corruption is deep-rooted and deep-seated where it should not be.
Do you think he's doing enough in his fight against corruption?
I think he can do more.
Okay, what more can
he can do more because during the time when the NDC was in government, we saw how they attacked the NDC based on these same allegations. Now, the Minister of Information says we should not judge the president by allegations in the absence of proof. But then when they were in opposition, the tune they were singing was different.
Totally.
So I believe that the president should be able to stay back. His appointees have been alleged to have been involved in corruption. He should rather encourage from where he sits that those who have the evidence should go to the right authorities for them to investigate. Any person found culpable should be taken to, you see, the issue when it comes to the perception, for me, started the moment the Attorney General decided not to prosecute those who walked into a courtroom and freed people who were standing trial and physically intimidated judges. It happened in broad daylight. Do you know the excuse they gave? They could not identify their people. That ended it for me.
Okay, so we'll go for a quick break and then continue the conversation. I still have with me Duncan, Amoah, Executive Secretary of COPEC, and Bobby Banson, who's a private legal practitioner. And of course, if you have any questions or comments you want to hear with the hashtag Breakfast Daily, and the WhatsApp line is 0550-585-832. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Breakfast Daily on Citi. Thank you so much for staying with us. And of course, we're still discussing the president saying that he is not in charge of convicting people. He can't convict his appointees. All he can do is refer them to the necessary agencies for them to be prosecuted. Duncan, you wanted to add on to the conversation before we move on to the next topic.
Dziffa, I'm quite sorry, but Mr. President would need to do more to win the confidence of Ghanaians. Because as it stands, corruption is becoming so endemic with everything. So endemic. And I think one of the main reasons for sanctioning or punishing people who engage in corruptible practices is because you want to deter others from engaging in same. If you bring Kelly GVG, people get cleared. How those contracts were signed, they are cleared. If you bring Ghana Maritime Authority, the boss himself comes to sit on live TV and tells us he deserves more, and that whatever lunch they chopped or whatever they spend the monies on, there are things that they should be able to spend more on. What do we see the presidency do? He is now upgraded to a board chairperson. So if the president is not complicit in any of this, we should see by his actions, not talk. Again, the boss issue I would go back to again and again. Contamination, 5 million. They said, oh, no product has left the depots. We insisted some trucks have gone out. MPA comes in and say, yes, some have gone out. They go to a private depot and these things. Eventually, the president sits in one of the meet time with the media and whatever, and says that the boss guy is clean. Dziffa, it takes the same person, a second scandal where there's some crude in Tor, instead of allowing Tor to process so that we can get fuel, he goes to sell it at market minus, off balance. We raise that again and we become targets. And so when people who probably are just, trying to help your own system to work efficiently become targets, then I'm sorry, Mr. President, your fight against corruption, so-called, is not giving any confidence back to the people. Unfortunately, we have to be the ones telling you at this point.
Okay.
Because you may not be seeing it. Your appointees are now swimming in broad daylight. Corruption. Some of them, not everybody. Others are working. But if you don't give some, encouragement to those working diligently for the state, they will soon join those who are eating with both hands. Because clearly, when these matters come up, you would find government machinery oftentimes against these civil society actors, these Manasseh and Anas, and those who take the pains to even go behind to give you critical evidence.
Okay.
They become targets, in the end, from the government. This is not good enough, Dziffa.
Thank you. Now, Bobby, apologies, you were concluding your statement before we went on break, but I wanted you to wrap everything up for us. So you were talking about people going into the court to act out and not being held accountable. So continue and wrap up.
Like what Duncan has been saying, it emboldens others to do what ordinarily they would not have done. Because then how do you decide to punish one person and then leave the other? Internally, within the party machinery, it will not augur well. So, like I said, the perception out there is for the president to speak about it, to say that I am not a clearing agent, speaks volumes of the fact that it has gotten to him that the perception is that he is a clearing agent. And it's disappointing that it has come to this point, particularly the platform on which he came into office as somebody who is he's never engaged in any form of corrupt practice. He's an anti-corruption crusader and everything. And it's been barely 20-something months in office, and you can count so many corruption scandals that are directly linked to the presidency. That is the problem. Directly linked to the presidency.
But is the judiciary doing enough?
No, please, let us not bring the judiciary in it.
Okay.
the judiciary do not sit and then spread their arms to go and arrest. No.
Okay.
The judiciary act based on, if the police, the attorney general does not recommend prosecution, what can the judiciary do? That is, I've heard them say some time ago that the judiciary is not helping them in their support against Galamsey. What does the judiciary do?
So the issue is with the attorney general then, from
the
your
prosecutors.
perspective?
You provide the evidence. What has the court got to do with this? The judge is sitting in his or her place. You bring him evidence that this person has engaged in A, B, C, D. If you don't bring it,
so that process in itself has not even been done.
It's not been done. Okay. The court has completely nothing to do with this. Completely nothing to do with this. Okay. If they want the perception to go down, they know what to do. I was making a point that unfortunately most of these scandals have been linked directly to the presidency. And I was making reference to the Galamsey committee, that committee that they set up. Was it Manasseh who came up with the investigative?
That was Anas.
That was Anas.
Yes.
With money clearly exchanging hands, and they bastardized the man. Hey, the same Manasseh, Anas, whose same means of operating was used to bastardize the opposition government. This time, because it is against you, he becomes a crook. And the person who was caught on camera receiving money has gone back to post.
Yes.
Has gone back to post. And his office is at the presidency.
Inside the presidency.
So, what are you saying? Anas, did any investigative agency invite Anas? Did Anas go? Did Anas present the raw footage? How was the investigative process conducted? If the president writes a letter...
Lawyer, I don't intend to be rude, but you see, the same instance, Anas presents his facts to the special prosecutor who is investigating. Then the executive comes out to say that he's cleared. The CID says the guy is cleared. Special prosecutor comes out to say that he is still working on that matter. So the fueling of public perception on corruption is not something that anybody wishes on the government, but it brings onto it itself.
Okay, so both of you agree that we're not doing enough, or at least the presidency is not doing enough to kill the perception.
We are doing the wrong things, Dziffa.
With corruption.
We are doing all the wrong things, and I'm quite certain that in the coming days you could hear a lot more scandals because people get away with almost murder. Video evidence. If it is a photograph, you can say something, but video evidence presented, oftentimes you hear the executive rather finding fault with those who present these evidences, and it's. Okay,
so we'll move on now to our second topic. Takoradi kidnappings. So I'm reading from citinewsroom.com. Takoradi kidnapped girls. Families demand DNA results from police. So the families of the 3 kidnapped Takoradi girls are demanding updates on the DNA test being undertaken on the human remains retrieved from the vicinity of the residence of the kidnapper Samuel Wills. A statement issued by the police CID after the remains were found said the test will be completed within 4 weeks. We are now in the 5th week. So I'm going to quote the spokesperson for the families, Michael Hayford. He says, when asked when last they heard from the police, he replied, that was last 3 weeks. The liaison officer came to visit the family, and then he told us that as soon as the reports come in, they will let us know. But as it stands now, the month has ended. That was a week ago, and there's been no information from them. So we are just hoping that they will come out with a report. And then we asked him again, what are they going to do? And he said that the month has just ended. And so they wanted to give the police at least 1 week more. So this coming Friday, they will know the update. But Bobby, the last time you were here, we were talking about kidnappings, and we're talking about kidnappings again. Are the police handling this family with the courtesy and compassion that they deserve to be handled?
If they were, they wouldn't have waited this long to go and dig up the suspect's house. You know my personal opinion on this Takoradi girls, the way the media, the police, the executive have handled it. It's sad. If it had been somebody's daughter, they would have acted differently. I mean, you say that you've found bones or dead bodies, you do DNA, out of respect even. the family should have been made aware of these findings. I mean, the fact that they found bones before they had it in the media.
Yeah.
They are not considering the psychological trauma and emotional pain and even the ostracization that these family members are going through. Not to see your children for, it's been almost 2 years now. And then...
it's a year. It happened in August.
Okay, so it's a year. Yeah. So all the information you get it in the media before you ask the police and they tell you, oh yes, it is true. It's too sad. I mean, definitely the family must have provided some form of evidence or something that can be used for the comparative analysis with the DNA test.
Yeah. I mean, initially they didn't want to, but then they agreed to. 4 weeks has passed. They still haven't heard from the police.
I doubt when they said they would get the results in 4 weeks, I was quite skeptical because it's normally not the case. Okay. From my experience, it's normally not the case. Let's hope that the results show that they are not for the girls. Yeah. I just hope so, because if they show that they are for the girls, and the CID woman, what's her name? Yes, still remains boss still remains at post, then there's a problem. Okay. Because she said that they know where the girls are. The girls are not dead.
Well, she was just saying that to, you know...
As a professional of that level, you don't play with people's emotions like that. You don't. So I'm just hoping that the results will come out and so they are not for those. But if they are for the girls, the family deserves to be treated better. The state would have to do what countries do for their citizens. And it's a very sad situation. I just hope that at the end of the day, we would bring finality to this issue. It's a sad thing that has happened to the country at this stage of our development. I'm very saddened by these developments. I just hope that the police will cooperate more with the family. They would deal with them professionally. I heard there was a lawyer who was representing the family at a point in time in their interactions. I just hope that they do what they have to do to make sure the family gets justice.
Thank you. Duncan.
Oh, sorry. I do not think that the police have been fair to all of us.
Okay.
You remember last week we were discussing how the guy that took a gun and wasted 2 of our officers was swiftly apprehended. Yeah. Now, it looks as though some persons are quite important in the scheme of things as far as our response is concerned.
People have said that the families reported it late.
Dziffa?
Slightly late, not accusing them of anything.
Dziffa, I would want to hold them to what the police themselves have given us so far. Granted, they reported late. It took a year to now conduct a thorough search.
To find some remains.
Find remains. It means that if we had gone in a bit earlier, maybe they wouldn't have been, assuming that the remains we found has a certain direct linkage with the living or surviving relatives. It would also mean that we could have failed these girls, and that if we had moved in maybe a week earlier, these girls may not have been wasted, assuming. Yeah. If it is also not them, then it means that whatever tracking information that was used in arresting the gentleman, the dear guy who perpetuated that silly crime, whatever tracking devices or whatever tracking methods that were used, we could have deployed same to rescue these harmless, innocent girls. Unfortunately, we have failed them. We failed their families. We failed the entire country. And so now, as it were, either way the DNA results go, it does not vindicate the police. If it goes that the relatives do have a certain margin, with the corpses they found, it still would make the police job a lot more difficult, because if they had gone in a bit earlier, maybe, just maybe, we could have saved these girls. If it is also not them, then it means that whatever we should have done to find these girls, same that was probably done to find the 2 white Canadians, if you recall.
Yeah, the 2 girls were found in 2 weeks.
Exactly. Yeah. We have failed our own people. Do we treat the Ghanaian lives any better? Or for Ghana, when these things do happen, it should just happen. And we continue to invest heavily in the security agencies. We invest in them because we want to feel protected. We want to feel that if something even should go wrong, the response or the rescue bit would be a bit thorough and through. We would not leave where some of these guys that we have, we would not leave those residences 1 full year to now go and conduct a thorough search in manholes. Clearly, people didn't do their jobs. And I am again, I'll hold sides with lawyer, that if the CID boss continue to remain the CID boss, the only thing that they are telling all of us is that there cannot be any better human being, there cannot be any better officer, there cannot be any better person who is a bit more sensitive to Ghanaian issues. When you come out to tell us you know where the girls are and they will return to their families, and it comes out later that what you are returning to the girl's family are bones, please, I do not think that is excusable. If I had a way to advise, I'll tell Mamitiwa to, at a point, just go. Because what we expect the CID to do, a criminal investigation, if you look at the chain of events, we failed Ghanaians, we failed those families, we failed the people connected or involved. And then you get an accused person who stays with the police and says he will not talk. Look, Dziffa.
Well, of course, Samuel is the alleged kidnapper of the case. So we'll move on now to the president again, and he's talking about the Vigilante Act. So I'm reading from citynewsroom.com, and it says, Akua signs Vigilantism Act, offenders to be jailed 15 years. So President Addo Akua has given his assent to the Vigilantism and Related Offence Act 2019, which bans vigilantism in the country. The act also disbands vigilante groups, including political party vigilante groups and land guards. So the president says the person who directly or indirectly instigates or solicits the activity of a vigilante, facilitates or encourages vigilantism, or conceals a vigilante to avoid lawful arrest, commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a term of imprisonment of no less than 10 years and not more than 15 years. So that was from the president yesterday. Bobby, your thoughts on this?
Well, we are a country that is very quick to passing laws that would not make any difference for me in our legal system. That act, all those things. I've always maintained that the existing criminal laws are enough to punish these people if we decide to punish them. I think it was only politically expedient for the New Patriotic Party to say that during our time, because remember there was a furor, there was a lot of agitation in this public space about how they have treated vigilantism and how those who were openly aligned to the MPP were sort of threatening state security apparatus and even threatening the government that if you don't give us jobs, we are going to cause mayhem. And they carried out these threats to the extent, like I was saying earlier, that they managed to enter a courtroom and free persons, and the state did not do anything. So when these things happen, you don't act. Then you come back after the event to come and say that I have passed laws to go and punish you.
Maybe at the time we didn't have the law.
No, but we had our Criminal Procedure Act that provided enough punishment for people who engaged in such. Listen, vigilantism is not a different crime. What it means, in effect, is that you have gathered without permission and you've either assaulted somebody or threatened to assault the person. Our laws now, they make provisions for wrongful or illegal gathering and then assault or even battery, if you want to call it like that.
But at the time, they were not calling themselves, some of them said they were, what do you call, volunteers.
So we didn't have to wait for them. No, we didn't, because none of the political parties would own up to say that we sponsor vigilantism.
Yeah, they are youth groups of a sort.
Exactly. So you deal with them in their individual capacities.
As youth groups.
So I wake up tomorrow, and then I call myself something. And so the government would have to find a law to deal with me? No. So all that you are saying is that as long as the people do not tag themselves as vigilantes, this law does not apply to them. Do you think they'll wake up and say that we are vigilantes?
No.
So who would this law be applied against? Because the law states that people who work in the political space, if they come and the political parties say we don't owe them, we don't own them, we don't know them, they are acting on their own, individuals. Which law are we going to use? We will go back to the CPC, the criminal code. So for me, it's much ado about nothing.
So this doesn't mean anything
for me,
to you
it doesn't mean anything. It was just
the fact that the political parties are meeting to find some.
What has come out of that?
Ground. Well, okay.
They will. You see, like Duncan said, as long as the composition of the security apparatus is politicized, political parties, individuals will continue to seek alternative means of providing their own security. We were in this country, Ayawaso. People were slapped. People were beaten. Which single person has been prosecuted, Dziffa? Tell me. We still have the videos there.
Exactly.
People were slapping other people. And a member of Parliament House, they fired gunshots. You could see video, blood spills on the gun.
But we had a commission, right?
That did what? Have you seen the final report? Have you seen the final report of that commission? No. I have not. I don't know if Duncan has seen it.
Not at all.
So quickly passing these laws, nothing.
Okay.
Sad. It's very sad.
What would you have rather seen the president do as opposed to working?
I decided not to prosecute the people who walked into the courtroom. That is when he should have come out, or he should have prevented that, because that is where the people were emboldened. Do you know when that happened in Kumasi? About 2 or 3 weeks ago, they were in Tema, live on TV. They were at a public event. They held a microphone and said, if they are not giving jobs, what happened in Kumasi is small. The man who said that, where is he? He said it at a political party event, not in a room, on a park. Where is he? Then you wait for all these things to happen. Because you are receiving bashing, you say your hands are tied because we didn't have laws. So you've come back to the law is going to be applied to who?
All right. Thank you, Bobby. Duncan.
Dziffa, I think I would have to share something with Bobby because I agree, spot on. We only fond of duplicating laws, right? You found people in broad daylight, sometimes captured, right? And the other side of it, Dziffa, let the trotro driver jump a traffic light, a road traffic offense. He will be found, he will be prosecuted. If he is not careful, he will end up in Nsawam. Let these so-called political thugs go and misbehave. Once they get arrested, then it becomes a political party game. It's an MPP, it's an NDC, it's a CPP.
Well, at least
Dziffa,
with this law, the people financing the activities can also now be held accountable.
Dziffa, if this was the case, none of the parties would exist.
Okay.
If this law can be applied, as they are seeking to want us to believe, none of the parties would exist. Because they come with their own personal security, and these guys carry live ammunitions. The sad aspect is that when these guys get involved or embroiled in some of these violent actions, you will get a certain so-called big person who says, oh, boys. What happens? Dziffa, as for the laws, we can decide that all the laws in the world, we'll codify them and put them in our laws in Ghana, right? Laws on things, even artificial intelligence, things that we are not even seeing. We can put everything here. But if you do not enforce the simplest laws, public order, Dziffa, we saw the Supreme Court, live, those times when the NPP went to court, the 2012 election petition. People who had gone to the court to even say things about the court, some ended up in jail. People had gone in the glare of a certain process to disrupt court proceedings. We say we do not know them.
So how do we
AG
fight?
says nolly prosequa, whatever it is. We have find this.
Duncan, how do we fight this vigilantism issue? Because we have an election coming up, and we can't have what happened at Ayawaso West Fogon happen.
I listened to the COP Nathan Kofi Boache, who said that what is coming is even more dangerous. Because day in, day out, we are emboldening these thugs or criminals who clad themselves in certain party colors and engage in pure crime. Things that the police normally would have had a response for. Right? We use the political institutions, we use the executive, we use the powerful forces within the system to frustrate the police from doing their work. Dziffa, you think the Ghana Police Service could not have apprehended these guys in a matter of 3 hours? You think they could not have arrested all of them?
Well, I was supposed to go on. They were national security operatives, right? So they were not operating as
the
commission. But at the time, they
used to work at Citi.
You see, Dziffa, whatever it is, take it they are national security operatives. No person, including the President of the Republic, is even above the law.
Yeah.
So if a security operative goes in violation of providing security, and is now assaulting, using live ammunition on people. Some of them are still in hospitals.
Yeah.
And nothing is done to this. And you come and tell me you have enacted a law. And political parties, the same people who are perpetuating the violence on us, right? They should go and meet and find ways. Dziffa, let me be very candid here. If you put Tom and Jerry in a certain basket, you are only wasting the basket. Eventually, because they will get out of it. They will continue outside the basket. So you can enact all the laws, put a basket there. And so anti-vigilantism bill and law and whatever. You'll be wasting our money and time.
Okay.
Because the people who should allow these laws to work, right, are the people meeting now to decide whether the laws will work or not. Mind you, election 2020, it promises to be very, very interesting.
Let's hope it will be peaceful for all of our citizens.
That is what we want. But if they do not stop these guys today, right? You embolden them, they get weapons, you allow them to carry guns. Sometimes they engage in crime, and certain big men will call the police to free them.
Yeah.
Dziffa, you are only emboldening criminals on our streets, and you continue to enact laws. Well, the laws are good, but Dziffa, we need to do the right things now, or forever we'll be biting our own teeth.
Thank you very much, Duncan. I've received some messages from you guys, so I'll read them briefly. Breakfast Daily, President Addo is just engaging in corruption propaganda by telling us the number of previous administrations officials who are facing prosecutions without mentioning their names. He can for once tell us the number of his appointees who are being prosecuted for numerous scandals that dominate his government. This is coming from Francis from Hohoi. Good morning, Dziffa. I think our leaders in Ghana are taking the voter for granted. If the president is telling the world that he is not the one to clear corrupt officials, then I think our president has gone off track. The corruption in Ghana cannot be controlled because it is backed by the Constitution. Ask me how. This is Sir Joseph from the Volta region. And of course, we have run out of time, so I can't read all of your messages, but thank you so much for staying with us. And thank you, Duncan Amoah, Executive Secretary of COPEC, for always being with us every Tuesday.
I thought you were going to give us 3 seconds.
Okay, take your 3 seconds.
Dziffa, Mr. President should also show commitment to protecting the public purse. The day he appointed 120-something ministers was clearly the day that he probably lost the fight on corruption.
Thank you.
He should trim down the government size so we can save the public purse.
Do you want 3 seconds as well?
Well, I wish my colleagues in Takoradi the best of the bar conference, and hope that we all come back safe to Accra.
Thank you. Bobby Banson is a private legal practitioner, and thank you at home for being with us. Don't go anywhere. We have Dr. Kelvin Owusu with David up next. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed this video.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Citi Tube,
for exclusive Breakfast Daily content and other Citi TV programs.
like, comment, and share with your friends.